What's going on, guys? My name is Jake. That's Jesus. This is your BodyComp prescription, where we help you navigate through all things health and fitness. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at BodyCompRx. We're not doctors or nutritionists, as always, so keep that in mind as we start the conversation. Jesus, what are we going into today for episode number 4?
Yeah, guys, welcome. Episode number 4 today. We'll be talking about body composition, everything that comes with body composition, what affects body composition, what is body comp. So yeah, I guess one good place to start is body composition is in our podcast name, body comp prescription, right?
Mhm.
So I guess we'll talk about why we're called body comp prescription. I think when Jake and I were looking into names of what to call a podcast or what really blends in, body comp prescription stuck out because body composition it really affects everyone. Whether your journey is losing weight, gaining muscle, whether you're a bodybuilder, whether you're an athlete, body composition is really something that everyone at any point in life looks at and should look at.
I think,
And yeah, that's
yeah,
that's yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, I think also it applies to everyone. It doesn't matter, like you already said, kind of doesn't matter what your goal is, but your body composition gets affected by pretty much everything that you do. It doesn't
Hmm.
it doesn't just mean like fitness related. Like it means like nutrition related that has an effect too. We'll go into the factors of like what affects your body composition a little bit later, but you know it's very inclusive, and that's I think that's why we kind of chose that name, is that it's relevant to most people. So
Yeah,
cool.
I like that.
um yeah, I think the reason that we wanted to talk about this, other than the fact that it's part of our name, is that body composition again is really relevant, and just to kind of help support that claim, is that the World Health Organization, which we all know, they classify obesity as the world's most preventable cause of death. They track everything. So um, I think this is really significant to keep in mind when um, we're discussing anything health related, because obviously obesity is something that we all know about, but I don't think it's something we take super seriously, as far as like we take a flu seriously, or we take a cold seriously, or anything. We have Rona right now. That's serious. But
Yeah.
um obesity is one of the most preventable things that we can attend to, because it has to do with like lifestyle choices that we make on a day-to-day basis.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, dude.
um, obesity affects your quality of life, your life expectancy, like how long you live. It can contribute to your sleep, like how well you sleep. Um, as well as like other chronic diseases, cardiovascular diseases, and stuff. So that's kind of why we
Hmm.
wanted to throw that out there and really explain that it's something serious that we want to talk
Hmm.
about. So
Yeah. Before we jump in to what classifies as obesity or obese, I think we should mention what is body composition for those who
mhm,
don't know.
yeah.
Body composition is basically so your entire mass, right? It's broken down to two things. It's fat-free mass, which the fat-free mass is your muscles, your bones, and organs, right? So
Mhm,
basically, what percentage of your body takes is those three things, and then the rest is the fourth part, which is your fat mass, right? So if your fat mass is 40%, that means 60% of your body is going to be your muscles, bones, and organs,
mhm,
right? Healthy individuals have a lower fat mass and a higher percentage of non-fat mass, so your fat-free mass, which is obviously your muscles, your bones, and organs. Um, we actually, if you don't know, you actually get measured your body composition from day one. Since day you're born, the first thing you do, I'm pretty sure when the nurses or doctors deliver a baby, they check your weight, right?
yeah.
That's a measurement of body composition. Um, and yeah, and so you from day one and every single time you go to the doctor to go get your physical, they're checking that stuff, and then they pretty much give you what's called a BMI, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think good transition into what I wanted to say. Be like when you go to the doctor, I think everyone knows that, they take your height and weight every time you go, but that stuff is being tracked all the way from the day that you're born. They they always tell the parents, oh, your baby is, this tall and weighs this much. So
Mhm.
it starts that early. But when Jesus is talking about BMI is a acronym for body mass index. It's like a scale. So what it does is it takes your height to weight, and it spits out a number that's supposed to indicate your, not your health level, but how much fat that you have, or your obesity level in a way.
Mhm.
So I wanted to talk about this because we know that when we go to the doctor, you know they tell us what our BMI is. Oh, your BMI is, 22. You're in the normal healthy range. That's a good thing. Oh, your BMI is 33. That means you're obese. But
Mhm.
what I want to bring to the conversation is that BMI is not necessarily super accurate. Because all it does is it accounts for, again, your height and your weight, but it doesn't distinguish between muscle mass, fat mass, right? Jesus just talked about fat-free mass versus fat mass. It doesn't account for those. So, I think a pretty good example is me, actually. So I'm I'm about 5'9". I usually hover around 165 pounds. But if you were to look and do the math of BMI, my BMI is actually around 25, and 25 is considered overweight. But every single time that I go and do a body composition test, which we'll get into in a little bit of how you can measure your body comp, um, I generally hover around 15% body fat or lower. And if, to save you the research, that's about the percentage that you want to be in. That's not, dangerously low. It's not, concerningly high. 15% or lower is generally where you want to be. So I'm considered healthy, but because of the amount of muscle mass that I have for my frame, I'm considered overweight. So, take that into account. Not every BMI, statement is gonna tell the whole picture. That's kind of what I want to get across there.
Yeah, yeah, that was a really good example because you hear many stories about individuals who are like, their frame's a lot smaller, but their
Hmm.
mass, they're obviously built, and they work out and they train every day, so they're a lot stronger. And you check their BMI, and you're like, oh my God, you're obese. But it's like, when you look at them, it's like, no, that person is actually very healthy, very
Yeah,
strong individual.
yeah.
One thing I wanted to touch upon is like, there's different ways you could measure your body composition, right? So
Hmm.
I guess the most common one technically is BMI because everyone does BMI when you go to the doctor, but there's other
Yeah.
ways to do it. There's what we call bioelectrical impedance. For those who don't know, it's usually one of those scales that not just check your weight, but they claim they'll tell you your body fat percentage, your your fat free mass, your fat mass, and I think one of the more popular ones is from the Fitbit brand.
Hmm.
I've seen those a lot. I've seen those everywhere where basically what it does is you stand on the scale and it sends electrical signals, and then your actual organs and muscles, everything hinders that electrical stimulus. So then it kind of gives you a number at the end.
Hmm.
Those are probably very accessible to individuals. But then another one is called a skin fold test, right? With skin fold calipers. I don't know how many people actually out there have done this, but it's kind of like an old school practice, but it's very, very common. So they're two calipers. They pinch base 7 different areas around your skin, and based on that thickness of where they're pinching in your body, it's able to give you an average of how much what your body fat percentage is. That one's actually very affordable. I think that's a good practice, but obviously when you're doing like that, there's different things that come into play how accurate it really is.
Mhm.
Um, and then
I
if
think,
those who, oh, go ahead.
oh, just to tag off of the affordable route, um, going back to electrical impedance, that's the something that's being a lot more common to find now is called an in-body machine. Um, a lot of gyms have them. A lot of supplement stores even have them now, and it's a form of bioelectrical impedance. And just to kind of reiterate what it does is it's like a scale on steroids almost. Like it uses the electrical impulses. It requires skin contact, a little bit of moisture, and then what it does is it uses the electrical signal. It goes up through your limbs, and it uses like the water in your body to help kind of travel through. And then what it does is it, accumulates all this information. Then it kind of spits it out for you in a nice little printout. But those are getting really common, and they're pretty cheap as well. Because I know, like, a lot of times when you sign up for gyms, sometimes they use that as an incentive to get you to sign up. Hey, we'll do a free body composition test for you. Um, and even again, like at supplement stores, they have them now because they'll do
Yeah,
like fat loss challenges or muscle building challenges, and they need to objectively measure everybody to see who's doing what. But in bodies are a pretty good method as well, especially considering that sometimes you can get them for free, and they may already be in a place that you go to on a regular basis. So that may be
yeah.
something to look into. But sorry, go ahead and finish what you were going to say.
No, that's actually good because you know what? Not anybody. Yeah, those in-body tests are probably technically one of the most affordable because you can usually get a gym to do it for free for you.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's good fold. And then for those, those ballers who will really take, the fitness and their nutrition level to or want to take it to the next level. There's a DEXA scan and body bod pod. These are very, very expensive. Usually you find them in clinical settings or
Yeah.
working for big companies that have this stuff. But it's just kind of like, to summarize the DEXA scan uses like x-rays to cut. You're laying down in this big machine, almost like an MRI, and it probably gives you the most accurate body composition out
Mhm.
there. But like I said, it's usually the really expensive, and they're not as easily accessible to everyone.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah. Now that we talked about like how do we measure body composition, Jake, do you want to like talk about like what is everyone's ideal body fat percentage?
So we can't just blanket statement body fat percentage for everybody. We have to at least split them into genders first, just because the expectations that a men's body fat required versus a women's body fat required are completely different. So for men, generally what people see as like the healthy as well as acceptable body fat range is around 8 to 20%. Anything below 8, even 10 sometimes for me, unless you're like an athlete, I would say, and you can't really help it. I think anything below 8 to 10% is kind of dangerous, just because like as nice as it is to be walking around like that lean and look shredded or whatever, it's really not that necessary. Like and vice versa. If you're over 20, you're just kind of carrying around excess um subcutaneous fat, like the stuff that's like right under your skin, and we don't really want that either. It doesn't really serve us a purpose either. So you know but body fat is good though. Like a certain amount of body fat is good because it helps us with um, uh, heat, like body heat, heat regulation, um, mental clarity, obviously, um, hormone function, and hormone function obviously ties into like the reproduction route too.
Hmm.
But um, as far as ideal body comp or ideal body fat for women, I say around 20 to 30%. Again, um, this number is a little bit higher for women because the biological expectations of like yeah, giving birth and needing to take care of a child during pregnancy and stuff like that. But going below 20%, again, not really, there's no real benefit for you unless, you want to walk around that lean. But again, you're risking your hormone function, and your mental clarity, all that other stuff that I just mentioned, for being that low. And again, for being over that 30%, just kind of
Hmm.
like you're carrying around unnecessary body fat. So, why carry that around if it's not really helping you? It's
Yeah.
only really harming you. So, what are some of the factors that affect body comp?
Yeah, so there's a different factors. I think one of the more important and then like well known, age, right? The older an individual gets, you start losing that muscle mass.
Hmm.
You've seen it too, when you compare for example, 50-year-old male who is active. You could see their muscle mass is still pretty good compared to a sedentary individual who is 50 years old as well, never really worked out. You see that their body composition is mainly fat mass. They have a higher fat mass percentage,
Well,
and that just comes with
also,
age.
I want to throw in there too, like when you have a 50-year-old who's active and a 50-year-old that's inactive, um, it's not just their fat mass, it's their bone density as well. Because
Yeah,
if you're active, generally what happens is, your bone density is a lot higher due to like weight bearing exercises or any, just being active improves your bone density. So I just want to throw that in there as well. So that can help
yeah. I mean,
improve your fat free mass by having a greater bone density as well. But sorry, go ahead.
no, no, good. No, that's actually a really good thing you bring up because I believe what is it, after 25, 28,
Hmm.
bone density decreases, especially on
Yeah.
the sedentary individuals. That's why you hear a lot of, practitioners and nutritionists and trainers saying, they really emphasize starting to work out and train earlier at a young age.
Hmm.
So yeah, so not only is it age, but it's also your genes. What some people don't realize is that some of us are just naturally much leaner than others. Some of us can naturally have that six pack look than others. Some of us store fat in different areas than others. Some of us
100%.
when we're gaining weight, we'll store our fat around our waist or hip area. Some of us hold it down in our glutes or quad area. So that's something to consider, right?
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Hormones, right? Another one that's really good. Hormones really play a huge role. I guess the biggest example I could give to people is when you're stressed out. A lot of people like to say when they're stressed, they're binge eating, right? That has a lot of hormones at play right there. Um, Eating an excessive amount when you're stressed out, not necessarily good, could lead to um, more of a weight gain.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and that's actually a good one.
Yeah, I think, when we talk about hormones and how they affect, or their relationship with body composition, um,
Mhm.
I don't know if you remember this, but when we were when we were in school, there was a topic that we talked about called amenorrhea. And now
Mhm.
I don't expect most people to know what this is, so I'll go ahead and explain it anyways. But, amenorrhea is basically the concept of having, for this is we're talking about females here, irregular periods due to hyperactivity and low body fat. So,
Yeah.
a lot of times this is common in either super elite female athletes or, the younger kind of like preteen athletes who, are obviously going through puberty, but because of their activity, their diet, their nutrition, have a lower body fat, which causes them to have irregular periods. So, I'm a guy, so I'm not going to claim to know that, more about periods than any of the females that are listening right now. So don't worry about that. But what I do want to stress is that, you know this is one extreme of your level of body fat and your body composition dictating what your hormones are going to do. So
Mhm.
obviously, um, when you're not having periods, that means you're less prepared to be, um, to biologically like reproduce, so when you have irregular periods, that means you're not ready. So that's why your hormones are important, and you don't necessarily want to go too low and dip too low into your body fat percentage, because that is a con or a side effect or whatever you want to call it, a takeaway that isn't necessarily beneficial for you. So for my non-female listeners out there, even female listeners as well, but if you've ever known anyone that's done like a bodybuilding show, like a physique show, whatever, that when they get close to show day, they get more and more irritable, right? Like, they if you've known someone, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But that's just because their body fat is so low that it's not, their hormones aren't functioning properly, because their low level of body fat won't allow them to signal in their brain properly or function in their other vital organs properly, so on and so forth. So I feel like that's a pretty good example as well. So
Yeah, that's a really good example. Thanks for sharing that. And I think the
yeah.
very last one I wanted to cover was Jake mentioned earlier, gender. You know, it's well known women just naturally have a higher body composition than men. You know,
Hmm.
that's for weight bearing needs. You know, women naturally have wider hips. It's just a well common thing out there.
Hmm. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I think the place that I want to wrap this up, to make sure that we're understanding body comp as a whole, is that body composition doesn't just reflect body fat, right? We started off this episode with Jesus explaining fat mass versus fat free mass. So basically, your body fat and everything else in your body, right?
Hmm.
So when we talk about body composition, we're not just talking about your amount of body fat and how to increase or decrease that. We're talking about increasing your muscle mass. We're talking about increasing your hydration levels, because even the amount of water that's in you affects your fat-free mass.
Yeah.
And again, bringing back bone density, your bone density contributes to your fat-free mass as well. So, when we're talking about improving our body composition, it's improving one of those things, if not all of them, just depending on what your goals are like. So I just wanted to reiterate that, we're not just fat loss based. If you want to hear about fat loss, we already talked about that in episode 2. So,
Yeah.
you know, we do want to mention that there are other things that you can improve to help improve your physique, if that's what you're looking to do. Do you have
Hmm.
anything? You have anything else you
No,
want to say?
no, I like that. I just wanted to summarize what you said too. Is a lot of us take or receive results when we go to doctor as BMI, and I think I like to remind others is like BMI isn't the only source you should look at. BMI
Yeah.
doesn't tell you everything. I believe that you mentioned that earlier, but I just really wanted to reiterate that because it's important to know your body composition and know that if your BMI says this, well, let's look at your body fat percentage. Let's look at your fat-free mass. So that's all I wanted to just reiterate there, the importance of that.
Cool. All right, I got everything I wanted to say out. Why don't we just wrap it up here? Thank you
Yeah,
guys for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.
peace out, man. Thanks again for tuning into our podcast. We appreciate each and every one of you who took the time to listen to this week's episode.
If you enjoyed the conversation, we would love it if you shared this with someone who would find this helpful. Be sure to check us out on Instagram at bodycomprx for more tips and information. We'll catch you guys in the next episode.